You ever had one of those moments when your whole world just stops? Like, everything around you is still moving, but you're frozen. Your heart's beating so loud it feels like everyone can hear it, and suddenly, you realize, you're living through your own nightmare. That was me. That was the exact moment I watched the man I loved, the man I thought I knew, go live on Instagram, his jaw tight, his voice cold, and say the words that would change everything. Watch me kick her out, right now. Just like that. No warning. No conversation. Thousands of people were watching, and I stood there, barefoot in our living room, makeup smudged, hair a mess, watching my private heartbreak turn into a public spectacle. My phone buzzed nonstop, comments, messages, calls. People tagging me, sharing clips, adding laughing emojis, while I stood there, numb, feeling like my entire life had just been ripped open for the world to laugh at. And the worst part? I couldn't even defend myself. Because deep down, I knew. I knew this storm had started long before that live video. It started the moment I opened a message I should have ignored. A simple "Hey, you looked beautiful today." That's all it said. And that one message was the first crack in everything I thought was solid. You know, people always think heartbreak comes suddenly, like an explosion. But it doesn't. It creeps in slowly, in the quiet moments, in the loneliness you pretend not to feel, until one day, it's too big to hide. If only I hadn't opened that message. If only I'd known that one little "hey" would cost me my peace, my privacy, and the love I thought would last forever. This is the story of how my relationship, my life, fell apart in front of millions. And I'm not telling it for sympathy. I'm telling it because I know, someone out there might be standing right where I was. Confused. Lonely. Searching for something they can't even name. You're watching Stories by TE, where secrets, guilt, and heartbreak collide. Subscribe now, because what you're about to hear will leave you speechless. My name is Maya, and if you had asked anyone a year ago, they'd have said I was living the dream. A cute apartment in the city, a growing career in marketing, and a boyfriend who everyone called the perfect man. Tyler. You probably know him, actually, fitness influencer, brand ambassador, the guy with that charming smile and abs you could probably cut glass with. Online, we were #couple goals. Matching gym outfits, weekend vlogs, perfectly timed kisses in slow motion, yeah, we played our roles well. But what the world didn't see was what happened after we hit stop recording. Behind the filters and hashtags, our relationship had become quiet. Not peaceful quiet, empty quiet. The kind of silence that fills every corner of the room until it feels heavy, like you're sharing space with a stranger who just happens to know your favorite coffee order. Tyler had changed. Or maybe he hadn't, I just hadn't noticed who he really was until the cameras got involved. He used to hold my hand in public because he wanted to. Now he did it because it looked good on camera. We didn't even argue anymore. He was too busy counting views, and I was too busy pretending everything was fine. We were partners in content, not in life. Every morning, he'd wake up before sunrise, set up his tripod, and record his motivational speech of the day. Meanwhile, I'd sit on the edge of the bed, scrolling through my emails, trying not to feel like a prop in his performance. Sometimes I'd catch my reflection in the mirror and think, when did I become background noise in my own story? And that's when I met Zane. He wasn't famous, not even close. Just a quiet, funny guy from the marketing team at work, the kind who makes dad jokes at inappropriate times, but somehow, they still make you laugh. He noticed things most people missed. Like how I always carried 2 different notebooks, one for work, and one for my thoughts. He once said, "You must have a lot on your mind, Maya. You write like you're trying to breathe." That line stuck with me. Because, truthfully, I was. Zane wasn't loud like Tyler. He didn't walk into rooms and command attention, he just saw people. He saw me. At first, it was just friendly conversations, harmless. A few laughs after meetings, inside jokes about our boss's obsession with PowerPoint animations. But the way he looked at me, it wasn't the hungry, performative kind of attention I got from Tyler's followers. It was softer. Curious. Safe. I remember one afternoon, sitting across from him in the office cafeteria, and he said something about the way I wrinkle my nose when I'm thinking too hard. I laughed it off, but inside, something shifted. A warmth I hadn't felt in months crept in. I didn't realize it then, but that's how it begins. Not with fireworks or grand gestures, but with the gentle kind of kindness that sneaks up on you when you're starving for attention. Tyler used to make me laugh, but Zane made me feel. And when you've been unseen for too long, feeling noticed becomes addictive. I used to tell myself I was just being dramatic, that every couple goes through dry spells. But deep down, I knew, something inside me had already started to drift. And maybe, if I had been honest with myself back then, I would have seen where that drift was leading. But I didn't. Because when you're lonely, even the wrong attention feels like love. He made me laugh in ways I didn't know I still could. That night is burned into my memory like a scar that refuses to fade. It was a Friday, one of those long, dragging days at the office when you can't wait to get home, take off your bra, and just breathe. Tyler and I had plans. Dinner. Just the two of us. I'd even booked the restaurant myself, a little Italian place we used to love before everything turned into content. But an hour before I was supposed to leave, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Tyler. Can't make it tonight. Shoot ran late. Don't wait up. No apology. No heart emoji. Just, business as usual. I stared at the screen for a full minute, pretending it didn't sting. Pretending that I wasn't already halfway through doing my makeup just so he might notice me for once. The kind of pretending you get good at when you're used to being disappointed. When I looked up, Zane was standing by my desk, jacket slung over his arm, watching me with that gentle curiosity he always had. Rough night? He asked. I gave a small laugh, the kind that hides more than it reveals. You could say that. He hesitated for a moment, then said. You shouldn't walk home alone. It's late. Let me come with you. I almost said no, I should have said no. But there was something about the way he said it, soft but certain, like he wasn't trying to rescue me, just be there. So I nodded. We stepped out into the night, and the sky opened up the second we did. It wasn't just rain, it was one of those full, heavy downpours that soaks you in seconds. We ran laughing through the empty streets until we ducked into a tiny cafe on the corner. It smelled like coffee and wet pavement. Warm, dim lights. The kind of place that makes you forget time exists. We sat by the window, both dripping wet, laughing like idiots. And for the first time in a long time I felt alive. Not loved. Not adored. Just, alive. It wasn't romantic, I tell myself even now. Not at first. Just two tired souls sharing silence. The rain softened outside, tapping gently against the glass. Zane leaned back in his chair, studying me the way people look at art they can't quite understand. You know, he said, you have this way of looking at things, like you're always somewhere else, even when you're right here. No one had ever said that to me. Not Tyler. Not anyone. He noticed something invisible, something only I thought I could feel. I smiled, trying to brush it off. But he kept going, eyes steady. You're smart, Maya. You don't just see people, you read them. That's rare. And that was it. Not the words themselves, but the way he said them, like they were meant for the parts of me no one had cared to touch in a long time. I remember laughing, embarrassed, trying to shift the energy. And right then, a friend from the office happened to walk past the cafe, spotted us through the window, and waved. Before I could react, she snapped a picture of us, me and Zane, both smiling like nothing in the world could touch us. It was harmless. At least, that's what I told myself when she sent it to me later that night with a caption. You two look good together. I should have deleted it. But instead, I posted it to my Instagram story. Just a simple caption, rainy nights and deep talks innocent. Playful. Nothing more. Or so I thought. I didn't realize it then, but that single post was the pebble that would start the avalanche. Because while I was laughing at the cafe, Tyler was home, scrolling. And that photo was about to light a fire I wouldn't be able to put out. Sometimes, the smallest choices carry the loudest consequences. And that night, I made one I could never take back. After that night at the cafe, things started to change, not all at once, but in quiet, almost unnoticeable ways. Zane and I began texting more. At first, it was just work stuff, schedules, ideas, small talk. But soon, it turned into good mornings and did you eat messages. The kind of words that don't mean much on paper, but when you're starving for attention, they taste like love. I remember sitting on the couch one evening, Tyler in the same room, scrolling through his phone like always. The blue light from his screen painted his face, and for a moment, I stared at him, trying to remember the last time he'd looked at me like I mattered. And then my phone buzzed. It was Zane. You looked beautiful today, by the way. Even under that ugly office light. My heart stuttered. I shouldn't have smiled. But I did. I kept telling myself it was innocent. That I deserved to feel seen, just for once. It wasn't like I was sneaking out, or lying, or doing anything that bad. At least, that's what I told myself to silence the voice in my head whispering, "You're crossing a line." Days turned into weeks, and every little text became something I looked forward to. Sometimes I'd catch myself checking my phone more than I checked on my relationship. It was like I was living two versions of myself, one that was still Tyler's girlfriend, and another that was slowly becoming someone else's secret. And the guilt, it came in waves. One moment I'd feel like I was glowing again, alive, desired. The next, I'd catch my reflection and see a stranger, someone who was betraying her own heart. Tyler noticed, I think. He didn't say anything, but I could feel it, that quiet tension that fills the room when someone knows something but isn't ready to confront it. He'd glance at my phone when it buzzed, then look back at his, pretending he didn't care. But I saw the way his jaw tightened, how his tone got shorter, sharper. One night, I dreamed he was standing over me, his eyes cold, distant, the same way they used to be before a fight. Except this time, he didn't speak. He just watched me. And when I woke up, my chest felt heavy, like I'd done something unforgivable. I tried to pull away from Zane after that. Told him I needed space, that it was getting too close. But he just replied. I don't want to make things harder for you, Maya. I just care about you, that's all. And that made it worse. Because he wasn't pushing. He wasn't demanding. He was patient, kind, everything Tyler had stopped being. There were nights I'd lie awake beside Tyler, listening to the sound of him breathing, feeling miles apart even though our hands were inches away. And sometimes, when I turned my head, I'd see the glow of his phone screen, messages from fans, DMs from strangers, and I'd tell myself, he's not innocent either. That thought became my excuse. My permission slip. It made it easier to justify the things I shouldn't have been doing. I wasn't in love with Zane. At least, not then. I was just tired of feeling invisible. But the thing about secrets is, they grow, quietly, patiently, until they start to demand space in your life. And my secret was about to step right out into the open. Because one night, while I was in the shower, my phone buzzed on the dresser, and Tyler picked it up. That was the moment everything I'd been hiding was no longer mine to protect. When I came out of the shower that night, Tyler was sitting on the bed. Phone in hand. My phone. He didn't look at me. Didn't yell. Didn't say a word. He just set it down slowly, like something fragile, or contaminated. Then stood up, kissed my forehead, and whispered. You should get some rest. We've got an early morning. And then he left the room. That silence was worse than shouting. It was surgical. Precise. The kind of silence that lets you know someone's already made a decision about you. For days after that, he acted normal. Too normal. He made breakfast. He cracked jokes. He even started posting again, couples clips, smiling selfies, captions like "the power duo never dies." People loved it. They commented things like "couple goals," and "finally back together." But behind every fake smile was something terrifying, a kind of knowing calm that made my stomach twist. He'd watch me when he thought I wasn't looking. He'd glance at my phone, then back to his. It felt like living with a stranger wearing the mask of someone I used to love. I tried to convince myself that maybe he didn't see much. That maybe he was pretending because he didn't know for sure. So I deleted everything. Messages, photos, DMs, gone. I even blocked Zane. And when I told him, he only replied once. He knows, doesn't he? I never responded. But my silence said enough. Then it started, the cryptic posts. Tyler began sharing quotes on his Instagram stories. Things like, "The ones who preach loyalty are the first to fail the test. Not every smile means peace. Some people mistake silence for forgiveness." Each one felt like a blade pointed at me. Friends noticed. They asked if we were okay. I said yes, of course. We were fine. We were performing fine. But at home, every sound made me flinch. Every question felt loaded. He'd ask, "How was work?" And I'd overthink every syllable, wondering if he already knew where I'd really been. Then one morning, over coffee, he looked up from his phone and said, almost casually, "We're going live tonight. Don't be late." I froze. Live? We hadn't done a live stream together in months. Not since before the distance started. "What's it about?" I asked. He smiled, too soft, too calm. "You'll see. Just be ready by 8. My heart began to race. There was something in his tone, something deliberate. It wasn't an invitation. It was a warning. The rest of the day, I couldn't focus. Every little sound from my phone made me jump. I checked my messages, nothing from Zane. Just silence. But that was somehow worse. I thought about what he could possibly do. Confront me live? Expose me? No, he wouldn't. That would ruin his image. Tyler cared too much about appearances. But deep down, I knew, this wasn't about revenge. It was about control. By the time 8 o'clock came, my hands were shaking. He had the cameras already set up, the ring light glowing in the living room, 2 microphones clipped neatly on the table. He looked perfect. Calm. Composed. And when I walked in, he smiled at me like nothing had ever happened. "Ready, babe?" I nodded, but my throat was dry. Then he hit go live. Thousands of viewers flooded in. The comments started scrolling, "They're back. Finally. We missed you guys." And Tyler? He was charming. Effortless. He talked about our brand, our new projects, our stronger-than-ever relationship. But every time he said the word trust, his eyes would flick toward me, just for a second. Like a dagger in disguise. I smiled, laughed at his jokes, played the part. But inside, I was crumbling. Every second of that livestream felt like walking a tightrope over fire, one wrong word, and everything would go up in flames. When it finally ended, he turned off the camera, leaned back in his chair, and said, "See? That wasn't so hard." I didn't reply. Couldn't. Because in that smile, in that eerie calm, I realized something terrifying. He wasn't planning to confront me tonight. He was building something. Something I couldn't yet see, but I could feel it coming. And when he finally showed me what he'd been planning, I understood why he never needed to yell. You know that feeling when you walk into a room, and your body already knows something bad is about to happen, before your mind even catches up? That was me. Standing there in our living room, ring light glowing like an interrogation lamp, phone on the tripod, Tyler smiling like a man about to deliver a sermon. I'd seen that smile before, the one he used for sponsorships and fake apologies. But this one felt hungry. "Babe," he said, adjusting the camera, "can you sit down for a sec?" My knees went weak. Every nerve in my body screamed to run, but I didn't. I sat. And then, he hit go live. Within seconds, thousands poured in, the little red counter jumped, 10K. 25K. 40K. Comments flooded the screen. "We missed you guys. Finally back together. Best couple ever." He looked straight into the lens and said, "Hey everyone, so tonight, we're doing something a little different. You all keep asking for the truth, right? Well." He turned to me, eyes locked, smile frozen. "Let's give them a show." And then, like it was nothing, he opened my messages. My entire body went cold. The screen glowed with every secret I thought I'd erased, Zane's name. Our chats. The laughing emojis. The late night I miss you I wish I could unsend. Even the photo from the cafe, me smiling, hair wet from the rain. He scrolled slowly, reading them out loud. Word. By. Word. You make me feel seen again. I wish Tyler noticed me the way you do. Don't make me fall for you. My own words stabbed me back in real time. And the comments exploded. Thousands of strangers judging, screenshotting, laughing. I could barely breathe. Some people typed, "This is fake." Others said, "Damn, she cheated." Someone even wrote, "She deserves it." Tyler didn't stop. Didn't even blink. He just kept scrolling, voice steady, tone almost amused, like this was entertainment. And then he stood up. The camera followed his movement, shaky but clear. His jaw tightened, veins visible on his neck. He looked at me, eyes blazing. "You think I'm a fool, Maya? You think I didn't know?" He pointed at the camera. "You all see this? This is what fake love looks like." The chat went wild. People were screen recording, sending reactions, tagging blogs. Then, with a breath that sounded more like a growl, he said, "I'm breaking up with her, right now. Watch me kick her." He didn't finish. Because by then, I was already running. Out of the frame. Out of the house. Out of breath. The phone fell. The video blurred. All I could hear was the chaos, his shouting in the distance, the echo of notifications exploding on my phone, and the faint, horrifying sound of strangers laughing through their screens. That night, I lost more than a relationship. I lost my dignity, publicly, permanently. People didn't see the whole story. They saw 10 seconds of a heartbreak I helped build. And the worst part? I couldn't even hate him for it. Because deep down, he was right. If you're still watching, hit subscribe to Stories by TE, because this story is far from over. The video went viral before midnight. By morning, my name was everywhere. Maya Thomas, the cheating girlfriend. That's what they called me. Screenshots of my face mid-cry were turned into memes. Clips of Tyler shouting had been reposted on every gossip page imaginable. Even people who'd never met me had opinions. I trended for 3 days straight. 3 days of strangers picking apart my life like it was a TV episode they had the right to judge. She deserves it. What goes around comes around. She looks guilty anyway. That's all I read for hours, scrolling through comments that felt like blades. And the worst part? I kept reading them. Like pain had become a habit I couldn't quit. Then the real fallout started. My boss called, her tone sharp, careful, professional. "We think it's best to part ways for now, Maya. We can't afford the attention this brings." Just like that. I was unemployed. No severance. No sympathy. Just silence. Zane? He disappeared. No texts. No calls. No apology. He didn't defend me online. Didn't post. Didn't even check if I was okay. The same man who once said, "You deserve to be seen," vanished the second the world started watching. And Tyler, he went on like nothing happened. Posting gym videos, smiling with new women in his stories, captioned with things like "Peace feels good" and "Some lessons come with blessings." Every time I saw him, my chest tightened. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was how easy it seemed for him to move on. How quickly he turned our 3-year story into content. Meanwhile, I couldn't step outside without feeling eyes on me. I'd go to the grocery store and swear people were whispering. I deleted my social media, but it didn't matter, the internet doesn't forget. I thought heartbreak was supposed to be quiet. Something you cry through in the dark, until you eventually heal. But mine had an audience. It was loud, messy, and merciless. I'd wake up to DMs from strangers saying things like, "You ruined your own life. You're disgusting. You should disappear." And in some twisted way, I did. I stopped answering calls from my mom. I stopped eating. Stopped sleeping. My apartment became a cage I built myself. I kept replaying that moment, his voice saying, "Watch me kick her out," the comments exploding, the laughter of people who didn't even know me. Every night, I sat in that silence, haunted by the echo of my own choices. That's when I realized something: shame doesn't just live online. It moves in with you. It sits beside you while you eat, lies next to you when you try to sleep, and whispers in your ear every time you start to forget. I was living my punishment, not because of what Tyler did, but because deep down, I knew I'd started this chain reaction with a single, careless reply. You know what hurts the most? It's not the betrayal. It's the silence that follows after, when everyone's done talking about you, but you still can't stop talking to yourself. I spent weeks in that silence, questioning every moment that led me here. Every text. Every choice. Every "it's nothing, really." Sometimes I'd stare at the ceiling and whisper to myself. Was I wrong for wanting affection? Or was I just with the wrong man? Because the truth is, I didn't cheat out of thrill. I cheated out of emptiness. Out of that deep, quiet ache that comes from being next to someone who looks at you like a brand instead of a person. Tyler gave me attention in front of the world, but behind closed doors, I was invisible. Zane gave me words I hadn't heard in years: beautiful, smart, enough. And I clung to them like a lifeline, even when I knew I was drowning in the wrong kind of affection. I used to think cheating was black and white: you're either faithful or you're not. But living it, it's not that simple. Sometimes it's a slow erosion, 1,000 tiny moments where you forget who you were because you're desperate to feel seen. And that's what destroyed me. Not the internet, not the exposure, but the realization that I'd betrayed myself long before I betrayed him. I became the villain in my own story, I whispered one night, and the internet made sure I never forgot it. Every hate comment felt like a mirror reflecting the part of me I didn't want to face. But somewhere in all that noise, something strange happened: the silence started to feel less like punishment, and more like space. Space to think. To feel. To understand. I picked up a notebook one morning, the same one I used to plan content in, and instead of hashtags, I started writing confessions. At first, it was just anger. Then sadness. Then clarity. I wrote until my hand hurt, pages filled with apologies I'd never send, letters to the woman I used to be, and forgiveness I didn't think I deserved. It didn't happen overnight. Healing never does. But little by little, the guilt stopped feeling like a weight and started feeling like a teacher. It taught me what happens when you let loneliness drive you, when you confuse validation for love, and when you lose yourself trying to be seen by someone who was never really looking. And for the first time in months, I forgave myself. Not because I forgot what I did, but because I finally understood why I did it. Maybe that's what redemption really is. Not pretending the story didn't happen, but finding a way to live with it. They say time heals everything. But no one tells you that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning to live with the version of yourself you never thought you'd become, and choosing to love her anyway. I used to replay that night over and over, thinking maybe if I had just kept quiet, if I had just deleted that message, if I had just walked away sooner, maybe none of it would have happened. But life doesn't rewind. It only reveals. And what it revealed to me was how fragile love becomes when it's built on validation instead of connection. When you give so much of yourself away that there's nothing left for you. Be careful who you love, and how much of yourself you give away. Some people love you only for the story they can tell when it's over. Those words used to sound bitter. Now, they sound like wisdom. Because sometimes, the people who break us are the same ones who teach us what we should never settle for again. If I could go back, I wouldn't beg for his love, or chase his attention online. I'd walk away the first time I felt unseen. Because peace is louder than any apology you'll never get. Tell me something, if you were in my place, what would you have done differently? Would you have stayed and tried to fix it? Or would you have walked away before love turned into humiliation? I genuinely want to know. Share your thoughts in the comments, I read every single one. And if my story made you feel something, if it reminded you of a time you loved too much, trusted too fast, or forgave too easily, then subscribe to Stories by TE, where every story reminds us that the heart doesn't always make sense, but it always tells the truth. Because sometimes, the worst betrayal isn't what someone does to you. It's the moment you realize, you helped them do it. And sometimes, the worst betrayal is the one you livestream yourself.